Okay, this is what is it? Season 3. What episode is it, Anthony?
I think 3.
Oh, season 3, episode 3. So a little double 3 there. This is my friend Ben Fasse. He's you want to introduce yourself, Ben?
Yeah, my name's Ben. I'm from Memphis, Tennessee, and yeah.
Goes to Syracuse University, obviously. He's on the running club. Yeah, so I met him on the running club last semester, and this is both like when we were at a time that we both kind of like really wanted to run Division one day. So I know I'm going a little different path, but I know Ben's still kind of on that wave, but we're going to get into that later. So we have a few questions for you today, and we just want to have a good conversation with you. So yeah. So the first question would be, how did you get into running?
So I guess I first started running cross country in middle school, but I didn't want to. It was just because my dad made me do 2 sports, and I liked playing soccer, so I wasn't going to do something like football or anything like that. So that was pretty much my only option. But then I kind of really got into it in high school, and my freshman coach kind of motivated me to keep doing it and not quit, which is what I originally planned to do. But yeah.
Were you any good at soccer, if I may ask?
I like to think I was decent. I mean,
okay.
I felt like I was the best non-club soccer player, which isn't saying a lot, but you know, I had that.
No, Anthony, you can go.
You started in middle school?
Yeah.
Okay, so was it then track that you started with?
No. So my middle school, we actually didn't have a full track. We had this really weird, like 150-meter, like straightaway thing next to our football field. And that was all we had. So It was actually just cross country. And I didn't start track until I was in high school.
Okay.
Interesting. I mean, yeah, no, I know I personally made that switch from like soccer to track, and like they are kind of interchangeable sports because like you're running around a lot. You know, obviously it's a lot different for cross country because like you're running around and you can't like actually stop. But I mean, like I feel like in terms of like sports to like switch over to, they're pretty compatible in that way.
Yeah.
I know a lot of like soccer players that like became good track runners, or good track runners that like are good soccer players as well. You know, like Caleb and Justin Seedorf back in middle school. So
Ryan Mecca.
Ryan Mecca. Can't forget Ryan Mecca. Yes. So the next question would be, describe your team and coach in high school. How did that help or hinder your potential as an athlete? And what did you learn from high school running?
So like I kind of said before, when I was a freshman, my coach, she was actually really good. And at the time, I wasn't really a good runner. I mean, I ran like a 23-minute 5K. But my coach, for some reason, one day we were just at this track meet, and she's like, Ben, one day I want you to run a 15:45 5K. And I was like, what? Because I never cared about running really at all. And as far as I'm aware, I showed 0 talent. But she kind of just, I don't know, there's something about her saying that made me want to actually kind of commit myself to running more and trying to be better. And the team kind of atmosphere at the time was also really competitive because the team in general wasn't necessarily like amazing. Like we weren't a state competitor team or anything, but we had a young group of guys who were all really competitive, and we all really wanted to like make the varsity team and, you know, be the best. So I kind of used that like competitive atmosphere to push myself to be better. And that kind of stuck with me. Unfortunately, that coach left after my freshman year, and I ended up having a different coach my sophomore year who was not very good, but the team atmosphere was still there, and that really helped. And the team captain at the time, he was a senior, and he was pretty good. He was looking to run in college at the time, and he kind of helped us out and guided us by giving us kind of his own workouts. And I think that really helped. That and just the continued like interest in the sport really helped me improve. But then that coach left. So then my junior and senior year, we had a new coaching duo, and they were okay. I'm not gonna like trash them too much. They were definitely they like to promote I guess the whole team aspect of it. And a lot of the people on the team at the time were more kind of just running for the experience, and like cross country was a big family thing for us.
Mhm.
And everybody kind of just loved being around the people on the team, but most of the people weren't really there to, run as fast as they can, or like they weren't really shooting for the same heights that I was shooting for. Like I was looking to be really competitive at states, and that was kind of just me and maybe a friend of mine, and everybody else for the most part was just, let's just chill and have fun.
Yeah.
So that kind of didn't mesh as well. That, and also a lot of the guys I'd run varsity with my freshman and sophomore years had graduated at that point, and I was kind of starting to take over the team as captain. So I think that there was a real kind of disconnect between some of the top varsity guys and the rest of the team because of that. And I think the coach kind of put a divide between us, because I liked the JV guys and everybody else on the team, and I was friends with quite a few of them, but it became very difficult when the coach kind of pointedly made it like, I can't do my workouts that I want to do, and I can't run as much as I want to because they were all there. And I can't blame them for that. That's kind of on the coach, but I think that really made things difficult. So
It definitely just speaks the kind of coach you have. I mean, what you just said, you've had a lot, but depending on if the coach is good for your team, like you can have a coach and you can have goals, and if they're not aligned, that's not a good thing at all.
yeah.
It's kind of like you're on your own in a group of people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I like about DeLuca, because I feel like he would keep it like separate. Like he knew that there were people that were just like doing it kind of for fun, and people that like had higher goals, but like he never made it a point to like stop us from like achieving what we wanted to. He rather like made it so that like, hey, like look at these guys, look at how hard they're working. Like maybe you should try. He tried to encourage and lift up the team to get to that level, rather than kind of like dividing like your coach did. So I mean, the coach definitely sets like a huge tone on the team. And like you were saying, like you can be as friends with as many guys on the team as you want, but like at the end of the day, like it's going to be the coach that's like deciding your training, deciding like what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. And it's so important that, and we've been really lucky, obviously, to have DeLuca, do that kind of for us, and create a culture that's, inclusive and inspiring for everyone. So
It was also just to add on to that, what you said before about how that one coach was it was in your freshman year that
Yeah.
told you you can run the 15:45 5K. Like I don't know this for a fact, but it sounds like, that kind of inspired you to keep going. Coaches can have an impact on you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
I couldn't explain why that ticked something in me, but maybe it was like, oh, this person like believes in me. And I don't know if she really thought I could run that or not. But for some reason that kind of just hit me. And
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. Like as a kid, like when you're coming into a new sport and you don't recognize the talent in yourself, and you see someone in a position of power telling you that, hey, there is a future here for you. Because I know Coach Anselm, like he set some pretty high standards for me. Like he thought I was going to run like 420, like 5, and then like 157. And obviously, I didn't end up doing that. I got injured a little too much. Maybe if I didn't, who would have known? But he saw that in me, and like I didn't think too much of it at first, but like in hindsight, like that really inspired me to be like, hey, like he sees something in me that I don't know if I saw in myself at the time. And that definitely like pushes you to explore and see like your full potential, even if you don't see it. Because like, as again, like older people, like I feel like hindsight is 2020, and they know more than we do. Obviously, that's just like, they just have like more wisdom, that's why you can trust adults for the most part. But yeah, no. And then like, I just want to talk about like how did your coach like personally, like, do you feel like your coach like personally hindered like your like PRs in high school? Because I feel like you tell me about a few races that like you could have went faster, you could have went to run in college, but like, there was a number of things that happened that, prevented that. So
Yeah, well, this was kind of like an epidemic on our team where for some reason that whole spree of coaches, well, I guess it was really just, I don't know, our team had a really weird history at like late season races. And I don't know what it was. I'm going to assume it was something about how our training was structured, but my junior and senior years, nobody ran well at state, in track, or in cross country.
Okay.
And we would start out well at the start of the season, but everybody would have their peak race usually at a mid-season kind of invitational style race on a pretty quick course, which really helped there. But we would all kind of, we would usually have regionals like a week or two after that peak race. So we were also kind of there and we would run well. But then our state meet was always at least 2 weeks after our regional meet, and nobody would ever, it was just, I was just so far off my times, and I really felt like the training in general kind of messed me up there because I feel like it wasn't structured well to get us through the whole season. And I don't know if the coaches were purposely doing that. I can't imagine why, but maybe they wanted us to peak for regionals so that we could have a shot at like a regional plaque or something.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas we would have no hope at state. But
they overtrained you?
Yeah, I think that was the case, especially my junior year. I actually ran at Foot Locker South after my state race, and I still consider that to be my worst race ever because by that point I was so far past my peak and overtrained that I felt terrible.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of training style really messed me up, especially my senior year in track. It was still kind of the same theme, but I was really competitive in the 800, the mile, and the 2 mile. And I was actually one of the best 2 mile runners in our division across the whole state. But by that point, it was just, I had my peak race a few weeks prior, and I just didn't have it in my legs when it came to the last lap or two in the 2 mile, and it just kind of fell apart from there and didn't end up making states because of that. And there was some other kind of, I guess, the way that state qualification works didn't really play for me well either in our region structure, but didn't end up making states my senior year, which was a huge disappointment. And I really felt like if my training had been better, that I would have at least made state.
Okay.
But,
yeah.
That just shows like, I know at our school, like we pushed because we were like kind of making the training like pretty much hand in hand with our coach, and we always made sure to like really like taper off before like our last like meets. I feel like, or Andrew, I don't know if you're.
I feel like we sucked at that. Like
really?
like consistently we shat the bed like a lot of the time at those like bigger races. Like I don't know, maybe it's just a me thing, but like every single time we had like state quals, I would shit the bed, but I'd have my peak race like right before divisions. Like my worst race was state qual senior year by far.
Oh, you know what?
That's
Actually, you actually are right, because I remember running really bad at divisions, the 800, the solo race, and then there's a couple other races that towards the end of the year actually.
Which some of that is nerves too.
Yeah, no, I think what I was saying was like we did like a good job of like maybe like tapering, but like that wasn't like
I'm trying to do it. I think the overall structure of the training, I think, has something wrong with it.
Yeah, I think there was something wrong with that, because I remember running we had like a dual meet on one of our first dual meets. We ran like a 2:05, like really, I remember running that, like literally jogging that and feeling so good after. And then like later in the season running like a 202 high and feeling like I could not like breathe after, you know? And that was
Yeah.
like after 3 more weeks of training. That was at West Hampton Beach where Anthony had his breakout race. I remember feeling, you know, I finished almost basically last in that race. And it was just like, what am I doing wrong? You know, it just felt weird. And then obviously, you know, divisions for us in 800, Andrew, was pretty disappointing. We were, but
Bad race.
to be fair, like the heat wasn't even that stacked, and we thought we were good, and then we just got gapped, and it was sad.
That was so bad.
But no, I think what I'm thinking about is like I feel like we really come together like for relays. Like that's something that like I don't know if this has been like a big part of you in high school, because I know like you were kind of doing your own thing, but like relays is something that we came together like no matter like what race, like if Anthony had a good race or if we had a bad race or it was the other way around, like I feel like we would all come together at like the end of the meet and like we'd have like a pretty good relay when it was important, you know?
Yeah.
So that's why like I don't know, I thought that was really cool that we could like pick ourselves up after and run a good race. Like the divisions 4x8 was like absolutely insane. Like that's literally one of the craziest races to watch. I watch that sometimes just to like remember that because it was insane. But
Yeah, I just think that like towards like the end of the season, like I don't know if you've had this experience, is that a lot of people like on our team just kind of felt like shit, even if the times were there. Like your legs are always heavier. I'm sure that you probably experienced something similar, being that, you know, you had worse races towards the end of the season. But I feel like that's like a theme throughout like high school running, and it might just be like a lapse in judgment of like a lot of coaches who maybe don't have a ton of experience.
and maybe it's
But
also just like, you know, like we are young, like developing runners, and like we haven't been running for that long. And it's like, and when you're trying to push the limit and get as good as you can, like at a high
yeah,
school level, it's like your body might not be used to it as much as you want to achieve. And it starts good at first, but like we're not fully developed like that. We're gonna like that's gonna be sustainable for a while. So that might be a thing. I know Anthony probably knows more about that side of stuff. So I mean,
So actually, one thing that I wanted to add was, you know, just in general, I think it's natural to feel tired at the end of a season because, you know, especially freshman year, that's your first time doing it.
yeah, that makes sense.
Sophomore year, you're a little caught up. So it's like, you know, your body's sort of getting used to things. Junior year, COVID happened, you know? So it's either you stopped training or you took it too seriously. You probably overtrained. And then you get into senior year and now all the races are stacked up day after day. You know,
Yeah, that is true. I'm not necessarily saying that like our training was bad. I'm just saying it was like a theme throughout, I think, my career and a lot of people's that
well,
like
yeah.
yeah, and it could be a product of overtraining. Like whenever I train myself, I do the same thing. It's usually
Mhm.
worse because I'm doing that. And I think a lot of people can like empathize no matter like what team you're on. Like Northport, for example, they're like one of the few teams that they they prep for late season like so fucking good.
Yeah.
Like they're always peaking late season. I feel like we didn't have that same kind of like jump late season, and a lot of other teams didn't. Like, and COVID and stuff were factors.
I
Don't
mean,
get me wrong.
we did run very well consistently in how Como was saying the relay.
We did run well in the
That was good.
relays.
That was good. But anyway, let's get back to
Yeah.
Ben because we're going on a Ward Melville.
Yeah, we are going to warm up tangent.
yeah. So I guess let's move on from high school and I don't know, talk about like transitioning into college and like what are some of your goals today? Like coming into college, like what was your mindset like going to Syracuse University and like your attitude towards, you know, maybe running Division I or running club or yeah, just talk about that, I guess.
Well, I kind of came into it at first. I felt like I had everything figured out because the most glaring factor to me was I hardly ran any miles in high school. Like I was off 30 miles a week for almost all of high school. So I was like, okay, I'll just kick up the miles to like 70 or 80 and that'll get me good. And I think that helped a lot, but as I kind of got into the season, I really realized there's a lot more to it than just running miles because I wasn't getting fed training anymore. So I had to figure out when I was going to do my workouts, what workouts I was going to do, and kind of I realized that there was a lot more little factors in it because I didn't want to go too hard on workouts and like screw myself later down the line. And I have to build into the miles at a certain pace or I'm going to get injured. And then you just have all these little things that come in. And it kind of gives you the perspective of how hard it is for a coach to factor all that for a lot of kids. But it really helped me kind of figuring out my training. I will say it's been really difficult not being able to race a lot. There's just not very many competitive races that I've been able to get into with ease and be able to do. Because, in high school, you're racing probably every week once your season really starts. But I actually didn't get to race a single competitive 5K my first semester. And I actually ran my PR in a time trial, which is like completely unheard of for me.
I paced him. It was really windy that day and he could have ran probably 10 to 15 seconds faster, but that was a good time trial.
Yeah, but it was really difficult going from the team aspect of like at the end of the day in high school, you're on a team and you kind of have that commitment. Whereas in college, you can, and I think this goes for a lot of things in college, you can really do whatever you want. Like you can go to class if you want, or you can skip. And it's just how much you want to put into it. So you really have to find that motivation in yourself to do it, because like nobody's going to come and kick my ass if I don't go out and run. So that's been difficult. As far as my goals, I mean, kind of going into college, I just knew that I needed to find some way to run a 14:30 5K or an 8:30 3K. And I figured that the 3K would be the approach to go, because I felt like I could get my 2-mile time close to that. But, day by day, you kind of look at those times and it's like, wow, that's pretty quick. And then not a lot of racing opportunities, so it's difficult. But right now I'm just kind of trying to work on improving my mile time. So I'm really looking to see if I can go sub 4:20 in the mile and kind of just figure things out from there. And even if I don't, it's really good to have that kind of speed background when going for a good 5K time as well. So that'll really help me out. Whether or not I end up running that or not, we'll see. But yeah, still aiming for the 14:30 5K, and I'll say sub 4:20 mile.
Yeah, those were the standards that like one of the coaches sent him. And I know like obviously Anthony's considering going here. So there's a lot of moving parts to like trying to walk on and all that. But I mean, I don't know, 14:30, that's quick, and especially as you said, like with our race schedule, like Penn State Running Club, they race like how often do you have races, Anthony?
I've raced every weekend this semester.
That's crazy.
Right? Like love the Syracuse Running Club, but I just feel like there aren't enough guys that are committed to like running like competitive track that you could have like enough people to be like, okay, let's make a trip out to here or here. Like Matt is literally like Matt Friedson has literally been just like racing at like random meets because like his brother's car is here and he can like take that and go.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like he has the flexibility to do that, but like I can understand like as a team, like we're not really making steps to like really race a lot, and that can be pretty difficult. Like time trialing is just simply not the same.
Well, I think that part of that is just because it's not a very big club, and for a lot of the guys, some of the races that we do run that aren't competitive at all for me are competitive for them. So why do we have to go out to drive 5 hours away to run somewhere that, we could just chill here and drive an hour and it'll be competitive for almost everybody else.
Yeah.
It's also really difficult when most of the guys with cars on the team here, they're all seniors who are about to graduate and go to graduate school. And
they're all half marathoners.
They're also all half marathoners. So they're really more focused on school. So it's definitely really hard to justify like a 5-hour drive somewhere to run at a really nice meet.
I've experienced that. I've experienced that a lot this year. The one thing I can say is sometimes it's worth it. You know what I mean? I mean, it definitely not all the time. And of course, it's incredibly hard to justify that. But then you also got to look at, I mean, what has been your motivating factor?
Just kind of trying to see how fast I can get, because I've always had kind of things going against me, and I never really stuck to a sport like this. And I really feel like in high school that kind of, as I got better in running, it kind of like changed me as like a person and really had a big impact on my life.
Yeah.
So I kind of just really stuck with it. And I knew like I would always watch the guys who were winning meets and running ridiculously fast times. And I was like, imagine what it'd be like to be one of those guys.
Yeah.
And will I ever be running at NCAAs? Like, who knows? But it would be nice to at least try and see where I can get. And I don't know how long I'll stick to this or how far I'll end up going, but that's kind of just the point, to just see where I can get. And a big part of that will be getting on a really competitive team so I can have people to push me again, because I haven't had that for a good few years.
Yeah.
I like how you're using like the goal of the team as like, it's not an end, but it's a means to like get better. Cause you're so right. Like once like you get on a team, like it's so much more different. Like it's structured, like you have so many more resources, like especially here, like with all the guys and like all the facilities, like you'll just have so much more, you like your potential is just like increased, and you have like the ability to reach that, I think. But yeah, I don't know. Speaking of like competitive races, I know, you're racing the guy on the bottom, Andrew over there. I'm not going to be in good enough shape to be in maybe like race form, but and I know Andrew, you want to talk about like what you're trying to do for that race? I mean,
Yeah, you're racing the mile, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah, Banana, okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm just trying to hit my PR, which is 4:35. But I'd like to go faster. I haven't raced a mile in about a year, and I haven't competitively raced in about a year. I had my first like time trial in a year last week. So I don't really know what shape I'm in, but hopefully I could stick by you. I don't know if there's anyone on the Binghamton track club, except for, yeah, there's no one on the track club really that I don't think will be breaking 450, but so it might just be you and me. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
5.
Yeah, Jonah will hopefully break 5. If he doesn't, he's getting bullied.
I'll get paddled. You should get one of those Greek paddles and just slap me in the butt.
It's gonna be worse than the paddle.
Oh God.
Oh God.
No, but I don't know. I went for my first run over like a mile today in like 2 months, and man, it was like, it felt so good at first. And like it did feel good throughout, but I had to stop a couple times and be like, whoa, slow down. Like I'm gonna like collapse if I keep on running right now, which is so sad. But yeah, it's always getting
The process.
Part. Yeah, that's the process. Just gotta be patient with myself and like
not get injured.
Not get injured. That's the only goal. Literally right now, if I can run healthily, like that is like that's all I can hope for, because if I can do that, and I'll have like the motivation to like, actually train consistently, and then who knows where we go from there. So I also with Ben, like your whole philosophy of like getting to your untapped potential, like I feel like that was also like a big driving factor to me coming into college, because I feel like we've all had our like problems with injuries and stuff like that, and I feel like that has definitely hindered me a lot of the times in high school. So I'd see like kids like Anthony or Andrew like running really fast. Like it started definitely in 10th grade when I first broke my ankle, and I saw you guys run like 4:37 or whatever you did at Frost Off, and I was like, I was running right with those guys like just a couple months ago, and then I broke my ankle obviously. So that really like opened my eyes to like, okay, I can do this. Like if they can do it, like so can I. Like I'm right there with them. And then obviously junior year kind of picked it up, and then injured again and whatever. And so I think it's just this constant battle with injuries, and doing everything I can to make my body right so that I can finally just like be free to like run as fast as I can, because that's the goal. Yeah.
Yeah, no, totally.
I had a quick question. Well, it's not really a quick question for Ben. So like you're talking about how like in college, like you can kind of just do whatever you want, and it's kind of been a struggle to keep yourself like on the right things. It's hard to keep running without like someone pushing you to do it. Have you like developed like a regimen or something? Because like I know I like follow like a daily schedule of like the same shit over and over so that I keep on doing my runs, keep on doing my workouts. Have you developed like something similar? Or, I don't know.
It's kind of just me going about whatever. I'll kind of just have really just memorized what I do each day. And that kind of
Yeah.
just goes hand in hand with my class schedule. So it's like I have this class, that whatever. And then I know on Monday, that's my off day. And then Tuesday, workout. And then the other days, it's just kind of playing it by how I feel, how the weather is. And it's either more or less, it's either workout or 8 mile run, or if it's a Sunday, it's a long run. And that's pretty much just what I've been doing. There's been a couple of days where it's just like I just haven't run because I've not felt it at all. And that's kind of a side factor of like it's the weekend and nobody else is running with me, and I can just skip the run. Which is unfortunate when I do that, but I've kept that pretty minimal. So yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, when in doubt, you could always like, I feel like when that happened to me, like with injuries, just like not being able to run, like I always like would try to go to barns or whatever. And like, obviously that's indoors. So like, and yeah, you're right, playing it by ear, because especially like with the weather here, you never know. Like obviously
Yeah.
recently it's been fine, but like, in the winter, like you never know if there's gonna be like 6 inches of snow on the ground, or it's gonna be icy, or it's gonna be like
Yeah.
freezing, like cold. So yeah, no, definitely playing it by ear is like the best thing you can do in college, because it's not like you have the same classes every single day, but
And yeah, sometimes you have to. I think that's a good thing that like a lot of people like me, like who are really gun ho about their training, they don't take the time to think like, do I feel like garbage? Like, should I really be doing this today? Like, even though like it might seem like you're being lazy, I feel like there's like a merit to being able to recognize like maybe I won't run today. Like, that kind of patience is important when it comes to anything.
Yeah. Well, I think you want to be careful not to. I think a lot of people talk about like physical burnout, which really like destroys a runner, but also if you get mentally burned out, especially in college, like that's just you're really gonna spiral out, and it'll be really hard to come back, because if you stop wanting to do it completely, then one day will turn into a week, will turn into a month, and eventually you're just in this huge downward cycle.
That's
yeah,
a good way to think of that.
that was actually one of my questions. I was gonna ask, like, have you ever thought about like giving up like throughout this whole like process? Because I know running alone is it's tough.
Yeah, I think more I've thought about giving up when I race badly, and that's been more of like a general me thing. So like at the end of my junior cross country season, that race I mentioned at Foot Locker, that race was horrendous. And I actually ran slower at that race than I did in my season opener that season. So when I race like that, I kind of get the thought of like, is this the physical limit? And I think a difference between you and me has been you've always been kind of talented, it seems, but you have dealt with injury.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like I've been a lot more durable in training, and I had a few kind of injuries in middle school, but it's either been like I've been sick for a week or two, or have some shin splints, but nothing really ever bad. But I've always been chasing people because I started out pretty slow. I mean, relatively to where I got to, like I was slicing off huge chunks of time each year. And once I kind of learned more about running, especially my junior or senior year, it was like, okay, so talent does play into this, and I must not be very talented because I started at 23-minute 5K. When will I stop being able to just keep shaving time off my PR here? And when you really hit that wall during a race, it really gets to you. But I kind of just focus on taking some time off and then coming back and just being consistent. And then yeah, that's worked for me so far.
I mean, hey, you run what, like a 15:39, you accomplished exactly what
Yeah.
this coach said. So I
Yeah,
mean,
fair
did you
enough.
think about that, by the way, when you ran that time in the moment, or just in hindsight, you're like, you know, like one of my first coaches did say that one day I could do it.
Well, I kind of looked at that time and I was like, well, I knew I could do this because I had run a workout. It was like a 4 by mile workout right at 5 flat pace. And I was like, well, I know for sure
Damn.
that I could do this time because I don't do good in workouts relative to my races usually. So I was like, for sure, I can run this. I just need to like show up and really put effort into it. But kind of afterwards, it slowly sunk in like this has been like 4 years in the making, and that's ridiculous. Like 15:30. I mean, I did not know that was possible when I started running. Actually, when I was a freshman in high school, my goal for the end of high school was to run a 19-minute 5K. So in 4 years to go from that point to running a 15:30, that really kind of got to me afterwards.
Yeah, really just shows that like hard work does pay off at the end of the day. And like, you know, you've been so, like, as you said, like you've been so consistent with training, and that's kind of like, that's taking you to where you're at right now. It's just a question of like, how far is it going to take you, you know? And the thing I like to think about that Anthony like tries to remind us all the time is like, you don't physically peak until like what, you're like 27 or 28, like for runners. Like that is like, for like male runners, I'm pretty sure it's like 27 or 28 is like literally like the peak age for like physical
Peak male essence.
yeah, basically. So I mean, like there could be like in your mind, like, oh, like this is where I'm at right now, and maybe it will never change, but like that's really not true, like physically, you know. Mentally is a whole different thing, but you know, physically you always have like that extra gear that you're still growing into. So, you know, just as you grow older, you'll naturally become like maybe a little bit taller, a little bit stronger, and you'll have that experience, you know.
Yeah, and honestly, I think like it might be a bit of a mistake to say like your times that you ran in ninth grade or eighth grade are indicative of your potential because like I know in eighth grade I broke 5 the mile, but I haven't gotten any further than 4:35, you know? So like I think like that's also just like a matter of how mature you are at that point. And like, you know, honestly, I think like at the end of the day, you really don't know like how much potential you really do have. Cause like, I don't know. I wouldn't say that like you should be thinking it will cap off anytime soon. Being that you've run 15:30 now, like from 23, whatever, like you just keep going, you know.
Yeah, and you know, I think that's what separates like good runners from great runners. Because like, look at a kid like, you know, I don't want to name drop, but like, look at a kid like Danny Ryan, right? You know, he runs like sub 2 freshman year, like, and that's obviously, you know, that's insane, right? But it's not like so much like the physical talent; it's like so much more mental than you think, you know,
And
because
yeah,
that's what's gonna make you a great runner. Like you can have the talent, you can have all of that, but like the consistency and the drive to continue on with that is what separates guys that like maybe just get on a D1 team and that like excel at that level, you know? So
We have like a minute left. So in 30 seconds or less, what have you learned from this year training alone?
It's definitely tough. You'll really be tested about how much you want it. But if you end up training alone or doing most of your training alone, it kind of really shows you like that's what you want, and it'll never really get harder than that because there's no greater mental challenge than going out and running obscene amounts of miles on your own. So if you can do that, then there'll always be a better situation that you can get to. So if you just find people to run with, it gets infinitely easier after that.
Awesome.
agreed.
We got 25 seconds left. So Jonah, you want to take it?
No, I just want to say thank you, Ben, for coming on, and you know, your mindset and you know, your training has been, I know, has really inspired me to want to get back into it, because I want to run with you and the guys and run competitively again, because I feel like we'd have some good races if I actually get into somewhat good shape. But you know, we'll see about that. But thank you again.